You've been in a season that felt endless. A hallway with no doors, a desert with no rain, a night that refused to end. You've whispered prayers that seemed to vanish into the air. You've waited for answers that never came. And you've wondered if maybe God forgot. Maybe what you thought was a calling was just your imagination. Maybe the timing was never meant to come. But here you are again, drawn to these words. Because deep down, even in the silence, something in your spirit still believes. And that belief isn't an accident. It's divine evidence. Because what you couldn't see in the waiting, heaven was shaping. What looked like delay was actually design. You thought the waiting was punishment, but it was preparation. Every closed door, every unanswered prayer, every not yet, was God building the foundation for something that couldn't be rushed. If He gave it to you too soon, it would have broken under the weight of immaturity. You weren't ready then, and neither was the blessing. God had to build you privately before He could reward you publicly. The waiting wasn't meant to break your spirit. It was meant to strengthen it. You've been developing in silence, learning what patience really means. Not passive sitting, but active trust. Because faith isn't waiting for time to pass. Faith is believing while the clock stays still. There were days you wanted to walk away, weren't there? Days when you said, God, I can't do this anymore. I've given everything. I've prayed, I've cried, I've tried to be strong, but I feel empty. And yet you kept showing up. You kept believing even when it hurt. You didn't see it, but heaven was watching that endurance. You passed tests you didn't know you were taking. You stayed kind when bitterness seemed easier. You forgave people who didn't deserve it. You loved when love wasn't returned. And because you did, your reward has been multiplied. You think nothing changed during this time, but your heart did. And that's where the miracle begins. God doesn't waste pain. He doesn't overlook tears. Every delay you faced had a divine assignment. You were waiting because the blessing was being built to fit you perfectly. You couldn't see it, but things were moving. The doors that closed weren't betrayals, they were redirections. The people who left weren't rejections, they were removals. Because God couldn't bless you in the same room where confusion lived. He had to empty your life before He could fill it. And now, after all this waiting, the room is ready. The pieces are aligned. You're about to step into what He promised. And it will happen so naturally that you'll realize why the wait had to be long. Because it needed to be right. If God gave it to you back then, you might have thanked Him for a blessing that would have become your burden. You would have clung to something that wasn't strong enough to stay. But now you've grown roots. You've learned that peace is more valuable than speed. You've learned that silence doesn't mean absence. You've learned that divine timing never runs late. God's greatest gifts often arrive disguised as delays because He loves you too much to let you have something prematurely. What He's about to reveal will make you say, now I understand. Every sleepless night, every unanswered prayer, every lonely moment, it was never in vain. You've seen others move ahead while you stayed behind. And you asked, why not me, God? Why do they get what I've prayed for? But you weren't being denied. You were being differentiated. What God is preparing for you isn't like what others receive. That's why your process has been harder. Your assignment requires deeper faith. You weren't delayed, you were being developed for a level of destiny that others can't carry. God wasn't ignoring you. He was investing in you. Every moment of stillness was a setup. Because when He finally moves, it won't be gradual. It'll be a sudden flood. The kind of breakthrough that makes up for lost years in one divine moment. He's been testing your posture, not your patience. You thought you were waiting for a promise, but God was waiting for your alignment. Waiting for the day you stopped praying from frustration and started praying from trust. Waiting for the moment when you no longer tried to manipulate outcomes but simply said, God, I want your will, not mine. That surrender was the key. And now that He has your heart, He can release your harvest. Because what He's about to give you won't just fill your hands, it will fulfill your purpose. The reason you had to wait is because this blessing had to be built around your obedience, not your impatience. And yes, it took time. It took pain. It took pruning. God had to let some people misunderstand you. He had to let you lose some things that looked like opportunities but would have been traps. You cried thinking he was being cruel, but he was being careful. You begged for doors that he knew led to rooms you weren't meant to enter. You thought he was taking too long, but he was actually protecting your acceleration. Because true growth doesn't happen in abundance, it happens in isolation. And in your isolation you learned what few ever learn, that the wait is not wasted when God is in it. Soon you'll look back and realize that the silence was full of meaning. You'll see how the no's made room for the right. Yes. You'll recognize how every disappointment redirected your destiny. And you'll finally understand that God wasn't ignoring your prayers, He was editing them. You were asking for what looked good, but He was preparing what was best. You asked for relief, but He wanted restoration. You asked for speed, but He was giving you stability. And when it all unfolds, you'll feel it in your soul, the holy recognition that His timing was perfect all along. So right now, breathe. Stop resenting the season you're in. Stop assuming that waiting means failure. But the same God who promised is still faithful. The same God who called you hasn't changed His mind. You're standing on sacred ground, even if it doesn't look like it. Because this waiting season was never about the absence of progress, it was about the presence of purpose. You've been walking through divine delay, but now the wait is coming to an end. And when the door opens, it will open wide enough to erase every doubt you ever had about whether God heard you. You're about to see why you had to wait. You see, waiting isn't wasted time. It's sacred time. It's the place where God hides His greatest work. While you were pacing the floors wondering if you missed your chance, heaven was busy building the kind of foundation that lasts forever. Every unseen shift, every invisible detail, every quiet transformation, it was all part of your preparation. Because what's coming your way isn't something you'll have to fight to keep. It will fit you naturally. You won't need to chase it or beg for it. It will recognize you because it was molded with your name written into its very design. And that's why it took time. Divine craftsmanship never rushes. You've been walking through lessons that didn't make sense until now. The loneliness that used to crush you taught you how to depend on peace that doesn't depend on people. The betrayals that shattered you taught you discernment. The doors that slammed in your face trained you to knock only where purpose lives. You've been gathering wisdom disguised as pain. Every delay was an education in disguise, every disappointment a teacher sent from heaven. You've graduated without realizing it. And now God is saying it's time for you to see what the classroom was preparing you for. You thought the waiting was about the thing you wanted, but it was never about that. It was about who you were becoming. God was stripping away your need for validation, your addiction to control, your habit of forcing things to happen. He was teaching you to rest in His rhythm, to trust His silence, to believe that stillness can be progress too. You stopped measuring success by speed and started measuring it by surrender. And that shift changed everything. Because the moment your faith matured beyond your impatience, heaven started moving faster than you could imagine. Look at you now. You've survived storms that once made you doubt you'd ever smile again. You've kept walking when you didn't know where the path led. You've prayed through tears, praised through confusion, believed through emptiness. You became stronger in the waiting than you ever would have been in instant gratification. You found out that peace isn't found in the outcome, it's found in the process. You've discovered that being hidden was never rejection, it was protection. God was keeping you under construction because He knew your destiny couldn't be built overnight. You're about to see doors open that used to stay locked no matter how much you pushed. Not because you forced them, but because now you're ready to walk through them. You'll notice how things begin to align effortlessly, the right people, the right timing, the right opportunities, all appearing as if out of nowhere. But it's not out of nowhere, it's out of obedience, it's out of faithfulness. You planted seeds with your perseverance, and now the harvest is calling your name. The wait wasn't meant to punish you, it was meant to prepare the soil so that when your blessing arrives it has roots deep enough to survive every storm. God wants you to remember this: blessings that arrive too soon become burdens. He had to slow you down to save you. There were places you would have gone that looked golden on the outside but were hollow within. There were relationships that sparkled at first glance but hid shadows you couldn't yet see. There were dreams that would have destroyed your peace if he gave them to you before you learned what peace truly meant. So he waited with you, not because he was far but because he was near, closer than your breath, guiding every detour and every delay. And isn't it beautiful that even in the waiting you grew into someone you wouldn't trade for anything? The version of you standing here now, wiser, calmer, more grounded, could never have existed without the delay. You learned patience, but not the kind that simply waits, the kind that trusts. You learned endurance, but not through ease, through fire. You've been refined in the unseen, and that refinement is about to pay off. Because what's on the horizon isn't random, it's reward. Every tear watered the ground where your future now blooms. You might not have realized it, but the reason God made you wait this long was because he wanted you to appreciate peace when it finally came. You used to crave noise, validation, attention, but now you crave alignment. You crave presence, you crave truth, and those desires make you ready for the kind of blessing that doesn't fade when applause ends. The kind of blessing that feels like home. The kind of life that fits your spirit instead of just flattering your ego. You had to wait to outgrow what you once called enough so that when abundance arrived you would know it was God's hand and not your own effort. Now listen closely, because this is the part you've been needing to hear. God is saying you didn't wait in vain. You didn't suffer for nothing. You didn't lose time. I was restoring it all along. You may have thought I was silent, but I was speaking through circumstances, shaping outcomes, guiding hearts. Every delay was a seed and the harvest is ready. You're about to see how I turn confusion into clarity, loss into gain, tears into testimony. What's coming will make you grateful for every detour, every no, every moment you thought he wasn't listening. So take this moment and breathe. Let the tension leave your shoulders. Let the memories of all the waiting seasons settle into gratitude. You didn't miss it, you didn't fail. You didn't fall behind, you're right on time. Because what's about to unfold isn't late, it's layered. It's been unfolding quietly while you thought nothing was happening. And when it appears, it will appear suddenly. You won't need to question if it's yours. You'll feel it deep in your chest, the quiet certainty that says, this is why I had to wait.